3, 2, 1. Not
3, 2,
ready,
1?
set.
I do ready, set.
I was not ready because you didn't do ready. No,
I didn't do. I didn't
3,
go
2,
3,
1.
2, and then point at you.
We have a thing here, Gabe.
Well, I'm turning it upside down, right on its head. How's it going, everyone?
I'm starting to like Gabe better than Chris. He was early.
Yeah,
he is. We're starting early. What is this? We got to charge you more now.
Early.
We have to increase the fee for watching the stream from 0.
I am early.
To 0.00.
0.00?
Why is it just Gabe that's early?
I think it's because when we're late, you blame Chris. So that means in the inverse.
Well, when we are late, it is because Chris is late.
Right, but if it were early, that means that it would mean the producer's early. Because everyone knows if we're late, it's because it's the producer's fault.
I don't think that's
so. Then I'll get the credit for being early.
Damn it. That's just the trade-off?
That's a trade-off.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to get yelled at, you have to also have the glory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, Gabe runs a tight ship. Chris, on the other hand.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday. Monday. It just doesn't sound the same.
What?
As the Sunday.
I know, but I like it. They all, you can do any day. Tuesday.
Valkiv says, I'm looking to paint the Cathay Terracotta Sentinel. So what color would be best for that? Dark umber to start, because it's kind of a color that feels like it's in the range of terracottas. It's not quite as red, right? But the burnt sienna, dark umbers, maybe mixing in a little bit of orange oxide or red oxide, depending on if you want it to lean a little bit more to the orangey yellow side of that or to the deep red side.
I know, it's crazy, Jeremy. He can run a ship.
Chris can run a ship?
He can run
ashore.
Ashore.
I don't know that I would trust anybody in this building, including Chris, to actually run a ship.
I think the only person I would trust in this building to run a ship would be Chris.
What does Chris know about running a ship?
I think he
is he a
would surprise
sailor?
us all. I know he does have a boat license. It depends on what kind of ship. Because any boat could be a ship. I don't know anyone else here that's got their boat license. So what he needs to do is bring his in, because then he can truly run a tight ship here.
Do you have to have a boat license?
You do have to have a boat license. Yeah.
I'm going to need to go get a boat license. Just so I can show up Chris. I'm going to need to come in here and be able to smack down on camera my boat license.
Yeah. I run this ship
there was
now.
a point in time where I nearly bought a 27-foot Sea Ray. 26 or 27-foot Sea Ray boat. I was going to go live on Lake Texoma in my boat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was going to sell my house, buy a boat, go live on the lake.
That sounds great.
It did at the time. I'm glad I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because a buddy of mine did it, and it wound up being a complete disaster.
Yeah.
With all the maintenance you have to do on your boat, and if you don't, your boat has a tendency to go wrong, and then your whole house is like a dry dock, and you're like, where do I live?
Yeah.
I go stay at Motel 6 for a month while they fix my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't wind up being as neat of a deal as you think it might be.
I gotta fix my boat. That is correct. Chris is the boat, so...
What?
Yeah, you do have to have a boater's license in AZ. There's also a lot of lakes that have like lake-specific licenses you need, which is weird. So
Havasu, where you have to have X amount of naked people on your boat before they'll let you on?
Yep, exactly. We have a buddy in California. His family lives on a very nice lake, and you have to get a boat license from them to boat on their lake. Crazy.
From that family?
No, from the lake.
Oh,
Yeah,
the family just gives you what, a piece of paper?
No,
you can boat on my lake.
You can boat on my lake. No, it's like it's like a big it's a big community that lives on this lake. I can't remember what it's called. But.
You know what would make this story more interesting, Gabe?
There is water in Arizona. It's crazy.
If you could remember,
it would make it more interesting.
Jeez.
Sorry.
There's water in Arizona? No, we don't have that. Never heard of it. We have all the types except what comes from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
The kind that falls from the sky we're not as familiar with.
We don't have that one.
But somehow we get all the rest of it. We steal it from our neighbors.
Ghost Hunter said, Philip, I trust that you can run a tight ship because you used to be a jarhead.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. I think Philip's the only other person.
Philip is
I
probably
would
the
trust.
least.
It's funny that all the people that you would say that are the least, I would actually trust the most.
Wow, dude. I could see both Philip and Chris
I'm sure Philip has done it.
having the attention to detail to like get the boat down off of the trailer and the ramp if you were doing that, and back the truck in and all that stuff.
Philip said he's technically steered an aircraft carrier, so
Technically, meaning that you were on the bridge and the
you-
navigator or the helmsman let you put your hand on the helm.
that's kind of
Do
cool.
they still even do that?
Kind of cool. Technically
Was
steered
it the Nimitz? If it wasn't the Nimitz, I'm not impressed.
That's funny.
I have technically been the steersman on an aircraft carrier.
They let him touch it.
Yeah. Can I touch the helm? Just so I can one day, when I am being chastised on the internet, be able to say that, oh yeah, well, I've steered an aircraft carrier.
Popcorn Chicken has a question. Are amp colors orange?
Hey, Gabe.
Yep.
What does it sound like when you pop chicken?
Mm-hmm. Are amp colors orange yellow or red orange pretty translucent? Or did I just not shake them enough?
I'm sorry, back up. Both colors?
The question is, yeah, both orange yellow and red orange, are they translucent?
More so than other colors because they're heavily oranges and yellows, which are both very transparent pigments. So yes, you might find that they have got more transparency to them.
DJ Alex has a question. I have a question. How can I achieve a true metal white metallic finish using a set of metallic paints?
A true metal white metal?
White
Our
metal.
metallic medium helps with that because
mix
it's
that
kind of
with
a
transparent
platinum
white?
color, but it's not very opaque. But you can take the metallic medium and actually add transparent white into it if you want to make them a white metallic. That works really well. Even thin down titanium white. But thin the white down, then add it to the mix. Don't thin the whole mix. The white is so opaque that it will overtake the metallic of even the metallic medium, so you got to be a little careful with that. But our metallic medium lets you do wonders in that regard. Think of it as a colorless, even though it has a slight tint to it, kind of a milky white platinum feel.
Jeremy, he doesn't know it yet, but he will be painting a green base.
Never. Not in 2 million years. Not just 1 million years. 2 million years.
Lumberjack Tim, you seem to say this from experience, that red orange and orange red cannot be mixed. What would happen?
Yeah, it's like crossing the streams. We don't do that. We don't talk about that.
Has this been a topic of conversation before?
Yes.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's like the whole Ghostbusters thing.
Mm.
Zool,
I've never seen Ghostbusters.
Gatekeeper, Keymaster.
I've never seen Ghostbusters.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, my favorite movie is
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
Gabe's favorite movie is Spaceballs, which he has never seen.
I've seen it
Oh,
twice.
yeah?
And I showed it to Chris.
That's a lie. I went along with the lie at first. I can no longer support this lie, Gabe.
It is.
This lie is an affront to everything that is
Great movie.
holy.
If I hadn't seen the movie, how can I quote it?
What can you quote?
When will then be now? Pizza the Hut. There you go.
He's read some things on the internet. He's never seen them.
I taught Chris those. That's why he says them all the time.
I would so much love for that to be the truth. To find out that Chris has been lying this whole time. Chris is really
Yes.
not a study of all things, film and that it really is Gabe that knows all the classics
It's true.
and has just told Chris. Chris
Correct.
only knows this stuff because I told him.
Aztec mystics say that if you mix red orange and orange red, a black hole forms and destroys the universe.
Yes.
Yep.
A lot of paperwork, according to Chris.
It is my favorite movie, Lumberjack Tim. You're correct.
What is?
Baseballs. And those are
Never
the
even
quotes.
seen it.
Those
We've
are
had
the
this
quotes I did
conversation.
choose.
I feel like we just had this conversation.
We'll
You've
always have this
never
conversation.
watched it.
How do you know
You've
that?
fallen asleep, I think, when it was on.
How do you know that just to spite Chris, I've watched it many times without him?
X is in chat if, you know, Gabe is lying just like he were Chris. There's so many better quotes.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one. There's two. And a Y. Wow. Not a lot of love for me and my favorite movie.
Gabe's a liar.
Not true. I only tell truths. Truths only. That's all we do here. So Jason, I missed it. What color are you using here for this little plume?
I'm
It's not a plume. What
his
would you call this?
collar, his high collar.
High collar.
It is dark green brown right now.
Dark green brown.
Dun dun dun. These ruffles are no fun.
Yeah, I do not
Wow.
envy you. I'm watching you do that and go, that's my least favorite thing to do.
There is like 1,000,000 miles of surface area that you don't realize until you have to paint the inside of every single one of these ruffles. This is one of those where it doesn't get you until the end. It's like a rattlesnake. These are like rattlesnake bits. They only bite you when you get close to them.
Ah.
Close enough to understand.
Yep, and then they kill you.
That's rattlesnakes don't kill you.
They can.
I mean, if you're a wimp.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Maybe I am.
Well, obviously you're not because you haven't ever died from a rattlesnake.
It's true. I've also never been bitten by one, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Have you been bitten by a rattlesnake?
Oh, ye of little faith. I have not.
Okay. That would have been a crazy story for you to be like, yeah.
I have not. I have. I've had one hit my boots.
Oh.
And I've had a lot of friends get bitten.
Scary.
And not a single one of them has died.
But they had to go to the hospital, right?
One of them didn't.
What?
Yeah, one of them didn't even go to the hospital.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I did not. I was not there for that one because I would not have allowed him to get away with that.
No, that's silly town.
Yeah. You usually need to go and get treated for like anti-venom and
Yes.
all that stuff. There is snake bite emergency stuff. But he had been bitten before, and so he was like, bah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So maybe that's why? Because he already
No idea.
His
Not
body
something
already...
I'm a professional at, so I don't know if I don't think it's that if you get bit once you're now immune. I don't think that's how that works.
If Philip's still around, he's a resident snake guy. He might know.
I know that I've told this story where when I was a kid, my great-grandmother lived right across the street from the fire department in a little town called University Park in Dallas. And the firefighters on the weekends would go rattlesnake hunting when it was in season.
Okay.
And they would bring them back to the firehouse, shut all the doors, and release the rattlesnakes out on the slick painted garage floor, and then go hunt them again around all the trucks. They'd leave the trucks in, and they'd just dump the bag of rattlesnakes out, and so that the guys who were on shift could hunt them too.
For fun?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because some people were on shift and couldn't go hunt them. So they would go hunt, catch a whole bag of them, bring it back, and release it in the fire department, and then everybody could hunt them. Okay. The guys that were on shift could hunt them too.
Okay.
And as a kid, this seemed great. Until, you know, because you'd hear stories about it, until one day I'm over at the fire department and they bring back the bag and they set me up on top of the truck and dump the bag of rattlesnakes out in the fire department.
Yeah.
And what made it even better is knowing that my grandmother and my great-grandmother thought this was great.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And they just caught them. They had like, I don't know, 6 or 7 big old rattlesnakes that they had caught. They released all 6 or 7 of them in there. And then they went and hunted them again.
Yeah, what happens if there's a call before you rehunt all the rattlesnakes?
Yeah, right. Well, they had one truck still outside.
Okay.
And I think one ambulance still outside.
Yeah.
They weren't like risking other people's lives by doing it, just their own.
Just their own. That's crazy.
But yeah,
That's
if they'd have gotten
wild.
enough calls for both of the house units to go out, that would have been a drag.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild.
But yeah, I remember sitting up. I think I was on the hood of the ambulance, maybe, and they released snakes. And I just remember as a kid, I can't tell you all the details. I just remember being absolutely as close to stone cold petrified as I've ever been in my life. Because by that point in my life, I hadn't really been around snakes. It was much later when you go hunting and shooting and all that stuff that you start to be okay in the wilderness and hearing rattlers and, you know, seeing cottonmouths. And we had, gosh, not cottonmouth. Is it cottonmouth? What is the real poisonous water snake?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I was going to say a snake that I knew was going to be really wrong and everyone's going to roast me for it. The one that's the different colors?
No, it's like black.
Water moccasin.
Water moccasins.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were big in Texas. And water moccasins are what you really wanted to stay away from because they're mean.
Yeah.
Like territorial, hunt you.
Ugh.
You'd be out on the lake fishing in a boat, and one would come from as far away as you couldn't tell what it was. You'd see it.
Just to come.
And then it would stop, and its head would poke up out of the water, and then it'd go back down, and you'd see it coming towards you, and they would come all the way up to the boat and, like, attack you in the boat.
Nope. Don't like that.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
No.
Don't like that.
Yeah, we were in a little private lake once, and the guy I was fishing with, I'm fishing facing the other direction, and I hear him cock his gun. And I'm like, wait, whoa. And I turn around and he goes, please start rowing towards the shore. And I'm like, why, what's up? He goes, please start rowing towards the shore. So he's very serious and calm. And I was like, okay. So I start rowing us towards the shore. And sure enough, there was a moccasin coming at us.
Jeez.
And it chased us even after we got the boat ashore. It came ashore after us.
Wow.
Yeah, that was something.
Not fun.
I was like, I was going to stay there that night. I think I did, but it'll make you think twice about, like, is it safe to stay here?
Yeah. We got a question here. Mine Hobbies, I thought a week or two ago you said that you don't need to clean dry brushes because dry brushing effectively cleans the brush. Picked up one of your pro synthetic dry brushes and didn't clean it after a session. The next day it was hard as a rock.
I have never said that in my entire life. You always have to clean. As a matter of fact, during the time where we were dry brushing, you have to clean the dry brush. The problem with not cleaning it during dry brushing is that it gets so filled with dried paint that's what causes that powdery substance around where you dry brush. Yeah, I would have never told you to not clean your dry brush. They do not self-clean. That is something I don't even know that I've ever heard. You just don't clean after every time you put paint on the model. You let it season, I call it, to where you get the dry brush, paint with a dry brush, across the model, maybe load it up 2 or 3 times for 2 or 3 passes on the model. Then you need to clean it and then dry it off again. Otherwise, you cake so much dried paint in it that when you hit the model, it actually dislodges the dried paint into like a puff of powder, and that's what gives you that chalky look that dry brushing hates so much. So no, I've incorrect, but you can still clean it.
Chris does look different today because it's not a Chris, it's a Jabe. Chris is on vacation. He's taking a well-deserved trip. He's still on vacation. We'll be back on Wednesday. And that too, Ghost Hunter, Gabe is better than Chris.
What?
I agree.
I don't know, man. What I've noticed, Gabe, don't take this the wrong way.
Okay.
What I've noticed is that I think you're trying to imitate the greatness that is Chris to some extent, and you're failing to find your own ground here. That's the way I'd put it.
Or was it always my thing first?
Oh, here we go. It's the Spaceballs conversation all over again. I led myself into this.
He's just been imitating me.
I'm going to tell him that when he gets back and see what he says. Tell him that, you know what Gabe said?
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
And he's going to say, don't listen to that Gabe fella.
You know what Gabe said?
He's got to save his own hide.
Good God, Ruffles. Is there anything we can do to extend Chris's vacation? What? What?
Yes, we can, actually.
Back on the dry brush thing, you can definitely clean it. I would soak the brush in just plain warm water. No soap or anything, but I would just soak it for a while to loosen up the paint before then adding soap and doing it if you've let it sit.
They did say that they were able to clean it, but it just took a long time with the brush goop.
Yeah.
To get it out.
Yeah. And sorry if that's something you heard here, whether jokingly or not, but no, always clean all of your brushes. There is no self-cleaning to brush when you're including acrylic paint, no matter what the technique is. Always, always clean your brush. The thing with dry brushing is you don't clean as often between passes. Like, when I run out of paint here with this brush, painting these ruffles, I'll dip it in the water and clean it. I say clean, we'll rinse, right? With a dry brush, you don't do that. The dry brush, you want it to season itself, so you will go 2 or 3, 4 times, depending on what you're painting, back to the palette to put more paint on it before it'll get so clogged that you have to clean it. Maybe one week when Chris gets fired for the 17th time, Gabe can take over. So, the thing that we don't like to tell Chris, because it has an almost adverse reaction to his hats fitting, is that Chris is pretty damn good at what he does.
He's okay.
And whenever Chris says, Gabe, no free press for Gabe, Gabe really likes Chris, and Chris really likes Gabe.
No, it's all false.
It's all false?
It's all false.
Okay. Well, I know the truth, and I'm telling the world the truth.
It's a facade.
Because I respect the world enough to give them the truth, Gabe.
Heresy. Stripstick says, tried out a skin tone mix over the weekend. Shadow Flesh and Bright Shadow Flesh. Did it over a workup of Burnt Umber and Advanced Flesh Tone.
Sounds good.
That sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, those work well. And give you, when you have the Burnt Umber and the Advanced Flesh Tone underneath, you can get a fairly kind of mid to dark skin out of that if you wanted to, but it's also a great underlayment for just doing really pale skin. It still has a lot of life because the Shadow Flesh in particular still has quite a bit of pinkishness to it, so.
Ghost Hunter said, ever since Empty Wallets ended, I've seen increased enmity between Chris and Gabe. True. We hate each other now. That's our thing. From empty wallets to empty friendships.
Damn, dude.
Aww. You don't even need the sound boxes.
Damn.
Aww.
I didn't know it was like that.
I know. It's crazy.
I thought there was still love in this house.
Never. I don't even know if that's a word in my vocabulary.
I raised you better than this.
Especially when it comes to Chris.
I raised you two better than this.
They're fighting over who gets Phil.
Who gets custody of Phil?
Yeah. It's funny. I will say I do adore Christopher, but there's nobody that I feel more satisfied to destroy in a game of Warhammer than Christopher. It is one of the greatest things.
Why so?
I don't know. It just feels good, you know?
To dash his dreams just feels...
It's just, yeah, it's like...
Chris tears taste the best?
Yeah, it's like taking his rock glued gargants and just dashing them across the concrete. Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah. Chad, I hope you aspire to better friendships than these guys. I'm going to lay it on the line and say that you might want to do better than these guys.
Dash is true.
I feel like this is what happens when you're just desperate for friends.
Mm.
And you find the first people that come along that like to paint models.
Sure.
Which I'm going to talk because I've invited every single one of them into our house.
Yeah.
They work here. I buy them lunch.
Where was it 105?
Outside.
Yeah, right now. Outside here. I do feel bad for all the places that get over 100, though, that don't have AC. That sounds rough.
Well, you know,
even if it's only one day, that sucks.
We were having our Color Forge meeting, and Chris was on the horn.
Yep.
Chris from Color Forge. He was whinging about how hot it was there. And I opened the office door and I said, hey, guys, Chris in the UK says they're dying because it's, I don't remember how much it was, 80 degrees outside. And everybody in the office at the same time went, oh.
Oh.
And he got so mad. He got so mad. He goes, we don't have what you guys have.
So funny. Okay, you're in Arizona. Okay, yeah. Yep, it is hot here.
Definitely. Last night was actually, I remember taking the dogs out.
Last night was nice.
And last night was really nice. I
Summer
remember thinking to
nights are
myself, oh, this would be a great night to be like sitting out on the patio. Of course, it was like 11:30.
Alex, 30 degrees Celsius feels like death to me. You guys are built different if you're chilling in 37. Try 42.
44.
44, yeah.
43, 44 for like 60 days.
Yeah.
Built different doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yeah. Built different and sweating while you sleep.
Yeah.
How that goes. Or insane electrical bills. I guess we don't have to worry about gas during the winter, though.
True. Winter's a lot cheaper because gas is a lot cheaper than electric for the amount you use. It's probably not any cheaper by volume, but you just don't have to use as much gas to heat your house as you electric you have to use to cool it in Arizona because our houses don't hold temperature very well either because they're made out of sticks and sheetrock instead of stone.
Yep.
My house is an old brick house, so Jen and I have it a little bit better. Our house was built just post-World War II, 1946, 47, and they retain their temperature a lot better. So when you get them cool, they stay cool a little bit longer. In the winter, in the winter you don't have to do much because they warm up with a little bit of heating and then they don't change.
I got two questions. We've got, can you recommend some paint choices for a Persian skin tone for my Islamic Crusader army?
I like something like the burnt umber mixed with advanced flesh tone. A little bit of shadow flesh works really well. Gives you a good kind of Mideast darker tone. And really, like with all skin tones, you then just play with how dark you want it to be, leaving more of the burnt umber showing or less, right? The goal when painting flesh, or one of the things you need to learn when painting flesh of any kind, is that I can paint very pale Caucasian flesh starting with black-brown, right? And black-brown gives me a really good shadow for that. I just don't want to leave a lot of black-brown showing because black-brown is a very dark color. But I can have it in the deepest shadows and get away with it, and it gives me really good contrast, can make the whole face look better. So not a color that you would look at on your paint rack and say, oh yeah, I'm painting pale Caucasian flesh, I'm going to start with black-brown. But it works great. So the lesson there is that you can create just about any earthly skin tone from the same palette of colors. Black-brown, advanced flesh tone, shadow flesh, burnt umber, all of those colors, and then just move how much of the dark or light colors you leave visible. and that way you don't have to have a million skin workups, right? You can see me painting skin with the same 4 or 5 colors all the time, and just leave more or less of the dark or light colors being visible at the end. Is a great way to learn to paint them. Now, if you want to start getting into really nuanced skins, then obviously some have more of a yellow tone to them, some have a more of a pink tone to them. But believe it or not, that isn't necessarily racial or regional. That happens within regions, right? So when you say Persian skin tone, if you look at like the the Muslim world in that Central Asian area, there's just many different skin tones as there are on the planet, right? So what do you mean, right? There can be pale white, there can be deep black, there can be that standard like mid-tone brown, Middle Eastern. So again, variation in skin is what gives it truth, because no matter where you go in the world, not everybody looks the same. Oh, that's weird. Like a doohickey there.
Dripstick has a question. If I were to start from a gray primer undercoat and use that SF plus BSF mix, I don't know what that means.
Shadow flesh, bright shadow flesh.
Oh, yes. You're talking about the question you had before. From a gray primer undercoat and use that shadow flesh and bright shadow flesh mix as a base. Where do I go from there for the midtones and highlights?
If you use the shadow flesh, bright shadow flesh as a base.
Shadow flesh and bright shadow flesh did over workup of burnt umber and advanced flesh tone.
Right. And what's the question?
If I were to start from a gray primer undercoat and use that mix, where would they go for the midtones and highlights?
And use that mix. I guess I'm not following. A gray primer with then all of those colors on it, you've already got all of your colors. I'm not following.
I think they did a workup of a mix of burnt umber and flesh tone first, and then did shadow flesh and bright shadow flesh. But did you mix the bright shadow flesh and shadow?
I mean, you have all your colors. You have your midtone and highlight and everything are baked into the colors you just listed. So I don't understand. Help me understand. You had a shadow, you had a midtone, right? Because your burnt umber can be your shadow. Your advanced flesh tone could be your first midtone. You can mix those two together if you need more nuance there. Then you move into shadow flesh, which is your brighter midtone. Your bright shadow flesh mixed into your shadow flesh for your first highlight, and then your bright shadow flesh on its own as your final highlight. It sounds to me like you have all your colors. I would be fine with just those colors.
Papa Chicken, we don't really have we say that we're in a drought, but it's just dry. It's just so dry here. We don't have problems like getting water. But we do have like the forests and stuff around will very frequently go up in flames because it's so dry.
Well, less so than other places that are warmer than us, or that are drier than us. But
so it's a drought because we just don't get a ton of rain, but it's kind of just normal for us. It's not like a California where they could have tons and tons of rain and then have no rain, and
we are pretty much 100% reliant on groundwater from other sources, so it doesn't feel the same as places like Gabe's saying. Like when you can rely on rain 9 years out of 10, and then in the 10th year you wind up with no rain and it feels horrible because you expect your water to come from that, runoff or ice melt or whatever it is. We don't have that. All of our water has to come from aquifers and, agreements with other states. We basically live in a place that humans shouldn't be able to live because we don't have the resources to live without others that we rely on. Colorado being the main source of water. And we have, lasting agreements with those states. So when you say drought, yes, we're in a perpetual state of being the desert. And it doesn't rain enough here to supply us with all the water we demand. But not in the same way that other places call drought. Because it's not like we have an expectation for the rain, and then it doesn't come and everybody freaks out. Yeah. We just don't get rain. We buy our water from elsewhere.
Yeah. We don't think there will be rain ever. What color would you use to make something like a sepia glaze or wash?
Use our latest
Petroleum brown wash.
petroleum brown. It's basically a sepia wash.
Boom.
It's not quite as green as some sepias, but I still would have. I bounced around the idea of calling it sepia wash, but the color itself is very close to the petroleum brown, which again is kind of a yellowish green brown. So it works very, very well for that. And then you don't have to mix anything.
Derpstick said shadow flesh and bright flesh mix as the base after the gray primer. Sorry for the confusion, just wondering where to go after the shadow and bright shadow.
Oh, I'm
mix.
sorry. I thought you said you were also using burnt umber and all of that. Am I wrong?
I think that might have been what they had started with. I think they're saying in lieu of that, using gray primer. Starting with gray.
If shadow flesh and bright shadow flesh are your base, that's not a very dark color. So then I would move into things like, obviously, bright shadow flesh on its own, and then olive flesh or something very bright, because it sounds like you're trying to go for a very pale, not seen the sun type flesh. So things like olive flesh, even the ivories, the warm fleshes work well. Bright warm flesh or dark warm flesh and warm flesh can be really good. That's more to me where you're headed. If you stopped using the burnt umber, or if that was somebody else, because the first thing I would tell you is you need a darker base. Shadow flesh as a base can work, but it is something that you do just for bright skin, because it's only going to provide a good contrast for the flesh on a much brighter top coat. So just be sure that's what you're going for.
Ted Onions, I badly need a tutorial on black cloth and cloaks. I thought we did a short.
Yeah.
That was black cloth and cloaks. Check that out. It either was one that we did post, or maybe it was.
I'm pretty sure it's out there.
We didn't end up posting it or something. I just did a quick look. I'm looking very fast, so I don't miss anything like that. But we definitely have like a black armor. I see right now. But I thought we did a black.
The black armor ones all work.
Yeah.
Right? You just don't go as bright. The thing when doing armor versus cloth is you just avoid the bright highlight is the main thing. So the same colors still exist. You can use like the Payne's Gray one with then the black washing. You like Payne's Gray, white blue, and then black wash. You just wouldn't go as pure white blue as we would for metal or reflective objects. Again, color is less important than contrast. Contrast is what makes a thing into the material that it is, not the color. So cloth, you just don't want as bright of a contrast. You don't want as bright of a highlight versus a dark background, because then it looks shiny. So and that will also get you like dirty black armor to not give it as bright of a highlight. I'm trying to think if I have anything in here with black cloth that I can at least show.
Did a dark gray cloak. What I'm thinking.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's dark gray. I don't have anything with cloth on it. I wonder if this speaks volumes about me. I obviously don't like black cloth much. I have a lot of things with a lot of cloth, and none of it is black. None of it is black. Have crow? Question mark. Can you pop in closer?
Mm-hmm.
The crows on this guy would be similar to what I would do for black cloth. They have a little bit of a shine like from the feather on this side that would make them brighter. But if you can think about it more from like this direction on this one. Now I also use royal purple on the shadows, but this is all like Payne's Gray or black or blue black as a base, and then like white blue mixed into it. So you can see like right about there, it has a very, dirty, feathery, non-shiny view. Obviously, I go shinier because the feathers have an oil to them that, would create a little bit more of a contrast. But from this end would be kind of like where my black cloth would sit. And then you can choose to do deeper shadows for it if you don't want it to seem quite as dusty as that. But that would be the way that I would attack cloth. Again, it's less... One of the hardest things I think for people to convince themselves of is it's less about what you're painting and just more about the, what the material of it is like. So I don't worry about if I'm painting leather versus a cape or a cape versus armor or whatever. The colors are going to be very similar in what I use. It's just how bright do you take it, how much contrast do you provide, and what kind of texture do you apply, right? So you can use the same color for everything you paint that's black, just take it a little bit brighter when it's something shiny like metal or a gun casing, and then keep it less bright whenever you're doing something like cloth or unpolished leather, things of that nature. The Dragon Slayer sword from Berserk, that big thing.
We have another question on painting Wolverine for Crisis Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Should I bother painting his hairy arms and stubble? Any tips if I do try and paint it?
You can. At scale, it becomes very difficult because the arms aren't very big. Mm-hmm. So if you have a fine enough brush, like something like our number 1 on the Dauntless would work, something that has a very fine point like that and is small enough, and you can do, wispy enough brush strokes. Let's see if I have anything here that's kind of at scale with arms showing. Right. So, it's Pepper and Rudolph. But if you can imagine the arm wanting to have hair like Logan has, because he's a very hairy individual, then you would just do it in brush strokes to where you almost create the texture at the skin layer. So when I'm doing the base color for the skin, I would do it as if it were hair with, horizontal lines across the arm like this. And then as I do my highlight, do it the same way. Do your highlights with that directionality to them rather than just trying to cover the area evenly. If you start from a dark base, do your dark skin tone base color in horizontal brush strokes like this. Going where the hair would lie across the arm, because it generally goes horizontal around the cylinder of the arm. So typically from the inside where it's smooth to the outside. So do like that. Then do the highlights that way all the way through. And then you already have a little bit of a texture, so you don't have to worry so much about painting individual hairs with like black. You can take a little bit of black thinned way down, or transparent black thinned way down, and then do a couple of wispy brush strokes. But because of all the shadow and texture that's been built up as you've been doing the skin tone, you don't have to do as much black, and it'll give you the feeling of that hair. So that's the easiest way, because at scale, you're gonna drive yourself bananas if you try to paint hair on an arm. It'll just wind up looking like he has black arms. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're doing it very thin down, but building up through the skin tones with the texture. Even though you're not painting hair, you're painting skin, but that texture makes it seem like, because you can't tell the color of every hair on my arm, but the color of everything else is interrupted by the texture. Even like the tattoos that I have, like the water here, the water looks like it's all streaked with that because of the hair. So that's what I mean by saying if you just paint the skin that way, then the directionality of your brush stroke makes it seem like there's hair on the arm without having to paint the color of the hair. Because like I said, at scale, that's the hardest thing.
Yep. So we got a couple questions on the black cloth.
Yeah, Danger, no problem.
I tried to mix coal black and Payne's gray as the base coat.
Mm-hmm,
I tried to do texture with faded ultramarine and then glaze the mix of coal black and Payne's gray back over it.
Okay.
It started to look really muddy and overall came off like a dark blue instead of a black.
The muddiness will come because you didn't go bright enough. Remember that when you're glazing a black back over, you need to go brighter than you need it to be. If you watch any of the tutorials that I've done, like from rough to great, the black armor one, that I did all in blacks and grays and went up to like bright neutral gray and then washed it back down so it looks black. That was this guy.
There's actually a short we just did that was leather. It's kind of the same concept. It was how to paint leather bags.
Yeah, but that's in brown, so that'll be hard because that wanted more contrast at the end. I think that the big thing is, but it does do the same thing. It goes brighter, and then he puts the glaze back over it, because anytime you put a glaze, it darkens everything underneath it back down. So you have to intentionally go brighter than you want your reflection to be, which is hard to wrap your brain around sometimes, because you'll paint it as if it's bright, shiny metal, but then you get the opportunity to put a black wash or glaze back over it as many times as you need to pull that highlight back down, but it still gives you the contrast you want. That muddiness comes from all of those colors becoming one, or in such a close range of value of brightness once you put the glaze on them that they just don't register as texture at all. That's the biggest thing. Right? But like this guy, there's a video on him on our YouTube channel, and it shows how rough everything was painted with just grays, and then I used transparent black with blue mixed into it over the top, and that dulled everything down, and then I just came back and picked out with bright neutral gray the highlight spots for the actual shine. But had I not done that, it would have looked like cloth, because all the highlights would have been drugged down in the black. You put the bright highlight back over the top. So think in those terms. You can paint black the same way, it's just whether or not you do that extra process to get the black back at the end.
Yep.
Or the shine back at the end. Sorry.
Another question. To get what is the best technique that you like to get smooth transitions? I've tried feathering, but it's too difficult, and I do not have an airbrush.
So I get asked a lot what my favorite blending technique is, and it's hard for me because I use them all. Right? Whether it's wet blending or layering or feathering, as you call it, glazing, filtering, airbrush is just a filter, is how that works, is generally you're thinning the paint down and then airbrushing it back over to smooth out the texture in your brush strokes. All of them are equally valuable. I think you mentioned that you hit the nail on the head. If one's not working for you, move on to one of the others. I use them all equally and don't have a favorite. I think that airbrush is probably my least favorite. It has great action, but it takes so much cleanup in what cases may be just a little bit of use. And I teach that as both a positive and a negative. In the positive sense, the easiest way to make your blends at the end of a model so that you can paint quick, not worry about your brush strokes all the time, the easiest way to blend it all back together at the end is to be good at an airbrush. It's just going to take you more time to clean the machine than it takes you to paint the blend, right? Because you might just go tss, 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 and your blends are done, but you've spent 30 minutes getting the paint ready and cleaning your airbrush and all that stuff. So it's a little more tedious. So that's why I wouldn't put it up there as my favorite thing to do, because I also am lazy. But it works fantastic. And if you can get used to working close and thin with your paint consistency, then the airbrush can be one of the best blending tools on the planet. You will use it a lot during the model because you'll do like your base layers and then you'll blend those. Then do your highlights and blend those. And then do your ultra highlights and blend those. So you're getting the airbrush in and out and in and out, in and out of your process. And sometimes that can just be tedious. But some people love it. That's the way a lot of the famous Spanish painters work, is they will do all of their blocking in of color kind of heavy-handed, and then they don't spend a lot of time blending with the brush, and then they use the airbrush to do the blending. But they'll bring the airbrush in at multiple points during the process, and nothing looks airbrushed because of that, which is good. But then just layering is what you'll see me do most of the time. And by layering, what I mean is that I will take a color, like we'll do it right now on this collar. I've taken dark green brown, right? So we've got the dark green brown as the base. And then now, right as I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, where do I want to go from here? Do I want to play into the kind of greenishness of the collar might be cool, but I've got the purple and the yellow, so I think more of a parchment cream is going to be better. Mm-hmm. So if I want to do that, then I probably want to pick something that is more of a neutral light color that doesn't move a lot of yellow into it. So something like an olive flesh. Probably not a warm flesh, but probably something like warm or olive flesh or dark ivory. I think we'll go with dark ivory in this case. They're very similar, right? But the ivory is just a little hair darker. And so on this one, what I'll do is I already have dark green brown out on the palette. We'll get a little bit of the dark ivory out, right? And layering, the way I define it in my speech here, is that I will take the brush. Let me grab, this one's fine. Right? And then I'll pull a little bit of the dark ivory over into my dark green brown. Okay? And I'll just come up with a color that I think is midway between them. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Who cares? It's not super science. Right? Take that. And then I'll start layering that just over the top of the ruffles here in a way that leaves where I believe the shadows would fall in the original color, right? So in this case, to the center of the cylinder shape that is created by these ruffles so that the darkness is in between the ruffles, right? And so I'll just start doing that. There's no technical blending happening. The blend is created by the area in between your colors. It's not that the colors are interacting along that edge. It's that you're just moving it up in brightness in a way that allows those colors and those transitions to exist kind of seamlessly, if that makes sense, right? So there's no blend there at all. I'm painting stripes. But it will start to look blended as you move through to your brighter colors, because you'll just add slight amounts of the brighter color each step. I'll add more of the dark ivory until we get to pure dark ivory, and you'll see. We'll just keep doing this, right? And you'll see that I will get a blended look without ever technically blending anything. But this is a blending type. Right? It's just layering. It's just called putting your one layer on top of the other. I'm not doing any special brush stroke or anything like that. I'm basically just painting racing stripes on things, right? And leaving the darkness in between the individual rolls. And you just keep doing that. So I find this to be the easiest one to teach people because it allows you to focus on where you want the shadow and just don't paint there with the brighter color. And then each stage, you just narrow your stripe in this case, because it feels like a stripe. I'm just painting a linear area, right? And so each stage of this, I will just, make a tighter and tighter line so that each of my previous colors show a little bit. So we jokingly call it painting yourself into a corner, because you keep doing this until you run out of space to put your next line. Whenever your next color would cover up the previous color entirely, you're done. You just don't have enough space. So that has to do with size of the model, right? Has to do with your brush control, things like that. But you can see very quickly how these start to look a lot different in their brightness than the ones that don't have it on them back here, right? And you'll find a lot of painters just do exactly this. Just consistently come in and, mix more of the color. I ran out of dark green brown.
Would transparent paints work any better through the airbrush for blending, or not really what they should be used for?
No, they work great for that. I don't know that better is a way to say that. I don't want to make you think that if you want to blend with the airbrush, you have to use transparent paints. They do work wonderfully for that, because you don't have to spend maybe as much time, getting them prepped to be see-through to do the blend, because you do want to make sure when you're doing that, like I said, you thin the paint down fairly hard for its opacity so that it sits on top of the previous colors in a way that lets them show through, because that's how you get the blend. So the transparent paints are perfect for that, because you don't have to try as hard to get them to lower in opacity. They kind of come that way, but they're very vibrant. So the difference between them is that, they are so much color all at once that you might find yourself in a position where by putting them on the model, you get too much filter color. You just have to be a little careful with that.
Sarah Angela, thank you for the sub. 4 months. Thank you so much. Thank you. You're the best. Yes, you can mix the transparency the same way you would do with normal paints.
You can mix them with normal paints.
Yeah.
They are not a different beast. They are true acrylic paints. Unlike inks, they perform like inks, but don't have the crazy nuances that inks do that make them difficult to work with other acrylics. Right?
We frequently mix them with our metallics.
Yeah, they work great mixing them with the metallics.
Yeah.
Give you any color metallic paint you want.
Mm-hmm.
Without any fuss.
How's it going, Jade? Welcome in, everybody.
Hey, Jade.
It is 2:53 p.m. here in Phoenix, Arizona. We're painting Lord BZZZT.
So when doing your blends in this layered method, one of the biggest things that I hear people say is that, it looks like my color isn't different enough. So I always mix it up by going too bright when I put my layer on. And that's something that you do need to be careful of, because you have to make sure that your colors are close in their vibrancy or their brightness. Otherwise, you lose the blend. You start looking like a candy corn. You start having banded colors if they go too bright one after another. So you're making more painting steps in between, because it's easier for you than, say, actually blending the colors. Whether you're using glazes or mixing more colors or whatever, it's typically going to be easier this way. You just have to make sure that you do, I'm just adding a little bit more of the bright color in each time to get a little bit brighter color to put on for the next layer. Now here I'm actually mixing the same because I got to get all these outside ruffle bits. Holy cow, what a bad part to do a painting example on, because it's going to take me 80 million years.
You're a little under your image
sorry. I'm using the side of the brush here rather than the point of the brush, because it'll guarantee I don't get paint down into the insides of the ruffles. I can just kind of skirt the outside.
Fjordahord?
Fjordahord.
I think is the way to say that. Jason's very excited the Oilers lost.
100%.
Probably, one, just excited, but only more so that our fulfillment manager, Shannon, loves the Oilers, and it's very fun to give her crap for it. At least for Jason.
Yep. I'm not sad at all that the cup has not belonged in Canada since '93. Not sad at all. And I like some Canadian teams. I'm a big Le Habaton fan. I like the Canadiens. Great dynasty built in the Canadiens. I don't like the Maple Leafs. I don't like the Edmonton Oilers, even though that was the bastion of Gretzky and all that for so long. I've never been an Oilers fan.
So funny. Jade said making those roughs takes 80 million years too.
I can only imagine as I'm looking at these things. My brain silently thinks about that stuff, Jade, as I'm painting. I don't always want to inundate chat with the holy crap. Can you imagine how hard this would be? Because it goes right in line with the, do you know that this gun wouldn't work? My realistic brain kicks in and sometimes ruins the fantasy. So I got to be careful.
Jeremy, yes, his armor is non-metallic metal. Jason painted that last week on Monday, Tuesday.
I think that was Monday.
Yeah.
Finished it in a day.
Did you finish it in a day?
Yep.
Dang. Yeah, Monday. This is the first thing that you did.
2 quick hours of non-metallic.
Yeah, just 2 quick hours. Just some pro-level non-metallic. Not a big deal.
It's a fun piece because his belly is just this, teddy bear round belly. So it's a neat spherical armor piece with just enough interesting bits on it to give you some idea of shine, outside of just painting a sphere. Again, Lucas makes amazing models. I might have to talk to him about this ruffle. All right.
So Alberto, who asked the question about blending, asked for layering. What is the worst color to? I think they're saying use like a yellow because it needs so many coats.
No, yellow is just as good as any. When you're layering like this, it makes all of your difficult colors very simple to do, actually. Because you're underpinning every color you do with a darker version of itself prior. So yellows, the problem with yellows is that people try to paint them over black, right? You never try to paint yellow over black. It's too much contrast all in one brush stroke. So it makes all sorts of problems occur. So yeah, I'm not a fan of yellows when you're trying to layer them up right over the top of a dark color, but you can imagine, like, you know, this dark ivory doesn't layer up nice over black either. But as I put it over the top of other versions of itself, so to speak, and not that, you know, the dark green brown is a version of dark ivory, but because I've mixed them together for one of my layers, they are now. Mm-hmm. And so now they give you a lot better foundation to work with that makes it easier for you to, you know, get them to blend nicely. And again, it's just then about thinner stripes put inside the other stripes that I've done, and you start to get the feel of a blended roll there. I'm starting to form the shadow that gives dimension to the roll, or what we call volume, to these shapes. Now, I do leave a little bit of water on my brush so that it's pretty thin as I do this coat, so that I can make sure that it blends better with the background, right? And then I'll come back again with this same color over the top to brighten it up if I need to, but it's working pretty well right now. I'm getting good definition of the shape.
Spatsnat said, another color question.
Sure.
How to create fresh cut wood, like a tree trunk freshly cut into a spike?
I guess, again, that would depend, right? You could go into some neat kind of greenish tones if you wanted it to be really live wood, right? Like younger live wood, I think would be the way I would say that. Mm-hmm. Or you can just have it be, you know, your standard kind of neutral beige if you wanted it to be, you know, like old growth wood. You know, heartwood is lighter but not green generally, unless it's a new growth tree. So again, it would just depend. Gotta highlight the inside of all these because that's a thing.
Yeah. I know, and as you're doing the top, I was like, he's gonna have to do the insides at the bottom of those, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then the sides. And
yeah, that's it's gonna look cool though. It looks really great. Sand O said, do you have any tips for using transparent green? I don't really know how to use the line, but does the green work differently than some of the others? When I used it, the color was not what I expected.
It's a green that trends into almost a blue leaning green. You know, remember that even base green pigments, because that's a single pigment green, it's not a mix of yellow and blue. It's a single pigment green, but it trends a little blue, right? With that phthalo green is kind of a bluish green. Mm-hmm. And so it's a single pigment green. So it's not going to be like our green, you know, it's not this green, right? So the transparent green is a bluer. So if you wanted it to be more of a green, add a little transparent yellow to it. Remember, you can mix all the transparents like any other paint and get a world of coloring out of them.
I actually find that they're some of the easier ones for me, at least, to mix, just because they're the single pigment.
Yeah.
Just, you know, easy. You know, red.
You get
and blue,
exactly what
red
you
and
expect.
Blue makes purple. You know,
you get exactly what you expect, which is great. It looked blue green, yeah. That's just that particular pigment, yeah. The green bottle says Soylent on it, yes.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does still. Cool. You got me scared, Ghost Hunter. I was like, uh-oh, did I mess it up?
There's little Easter eggs on some of the colors.
I know, but as we updated them, I was like, oh, did I
Some
forget
of them have
this?
gotten lost through updates, and then we've had to add them back,
Yeah.
and, you know, so there might be a generation of them that there's a gap with don't have them. It's just fun.
What colors will work best for highlighting purple, blue, and turquoise? Do you ever use white in the process mixed with some paints to make them brighter for highlights, or rather go for super bright grays?
You have to be careful with the bright gray because it's a neutral tone, so it'll suck the warmth out of your color, which is also the problem of black and white, right? So black gray, true gray, neutral gray, and white, because the neutral gray should just be a combo of black and white, right? So anything that's in that black and white space that you add to color, I say it vacuums the color or sucks the color out of it. It desaturates the color so intensely, so immediately, that you wind up pushing your color into a pale pastel version of itself, which may not be what you want. If you're doing purple and you really like the warmth of purple and you add white to it to get a brighter version of itself, you'll notice you lose all that warmth almost immediately and it becomes kind of a real pastel version, and doesn't feel right. So, like on the purple for his clothes, what I will be doing is moving towards faded plum as a highlight, right? And I can put the faded plum on as the highlight, which isn't the color I want, but it sets up the brightness I want. And then I can go back over it with like dark magenta, right? And I can get the color I want back out of it, because the dark magenta is such a translucent color that I can't use it as a direct highlight necessarily, because it doesn't put enough punch on there. But you can underpaint something that's in the right color family, purple, right? Put this on there because it gives you the brightness you want without distracting, because if I put white on there, white is not in the color family I want. And when I put the magenta over the top of the white, it becomes like freaking hot pink, which may not be what I want on here. But I can use something like this that I put the magenta over, and the combo of those two puts me into the realm of just a brighter royal purple. Now, I could also just take the royal purple and mix it with other colors and highlight off of that too. But I tend to not use whites, grays, blacks, those things very often. White's a great way to tint color, but really better for when you're going to that bright shine of a metallic or that bright reflection on glass or plastic or guns, things like that. On cloth, not so much. So again, and on skin, not so much.
That's right, Ted Onions. We are hitting the under today for a number of times. We the people was said on stream.
And by we, I mean we, as in me.
And Jason.
Not as in you guys. This is the time I should have been taking advantage of that. We're painting today, and by we, I mean me and not you guys. That's what my shtick when Chris isn't here should be. Because Chris is always like, and by we, I mean we, the people, are painting. And I'm always like, what are you talking about?
Oh, my gosh.
That guy.
So fun. So silly. Silly goose. I saw a shirt, and it's super cringy, but it's just funny to me. It's like a off-white shirt that has a goose on it holding a shotgun that says, "Today I'm a serious goose." I think it's hilarious.
Instead of a silly goose?
Yeah. I think it's great, and I want it. I want it. Today's chat bingo is going to be bad for we the people until now. It's true.
Figured you guys had some sort of over-under going, so I had to blow it up.
Yep.
You never let the dealer know your bet.
It's true. Unless the bet is to make us say it more, then that will happen.
Have we been had?
We've been had.
Oh, no.
Yeah, unfortunately. And anybody who bet under is having a bad day. So I got this. I don't know if I told you about this game, but I played it more this weekend. It's called Ready, Set, Bet. It's a horse race.
I think the horse race thing. Yeah, you told me about it.
It is a blast. It is so much fun. It's very, very silly. And people are just yelling numbers at the table because they just want the horse to win, and it's great.
And what makes the horse win or not win?
So one person's rolling dice.
Oh, and that horse number moves forward.
Yep.
Ah, that's right.
And if certain horse numbers are rolled twice in a row, they move forward further. So
but every horse normally just moves the same amount.
They just move one. But if I roll 2 8s in a row, it would move an extra space. So it would move 3. But if I roll 2 4s in a row, it would move 5 spaces. So it's
wait, what?
That's good. Just the odds of rolling a 4 twice in a row are a lot less. So you roll it once, it moves 1 space, and you roll it a second time, it moves 4 spaces.
Oh, gotcha.
So you have a lot of fun underdog coming from behind, and everyone's like, what is going on? But all the betting is live. So you don't stop and everyone puts a bet, and then you roll, and then you stop and everyone puts a bet. It's like, I'm just rolling and just yelling numbers, and you can place bets wherever, but you're only one person is allowed to occupy a specific bet on the table at a time. So you're kind of racing each other to try to get the ones that you want.
to get your bet in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
That's really fun.
Freaking gamblers.
Mine and Hobbies, I would totally buy a We the People Will Put Paint on the Model t-shirt. That's great. That's a good idea. Ghost Hunter said, chat bingo is safer than taking shots along with stream. This
Probably.
Especially if you're at work.
Yeah, probably. Not going to deny that at all.
Watson Race at Bet is one of the few real-time tabletop games I'll play. Yeah, it's very fun. I haven't tried the app yet. I don't know. I like having someone there to run the table. But maybe the app is a lot of fun too. Time. And we had found the big Kickstarter set at a game. We found it at Gamers Guild.
Yeah, I remember you telling me it was like
just on the shelf, and I was like, I have to get it. I've been waiting for this. That was fun. So Christopher and I splits it. We splitted it.
Yeah, they hate each other.
Yeah, we hate each other, so we splitted it.
You didn't split it, you split.
We splitted it.
Two of you. Christopher, when he leaves the building, is like,
splitted
I left it.
I left it.
Jen drives her bananas.
And it. It's so funny.
Like nobody left it anything.
Oh, he left it his brain behind.
Yeah, he didn't answer me the last time. I was like, left it? Question mark? And he was like, he didn't even bother to answer me.
No, because it's all part of his game.
It is.
He just plays games. He's so many games going.
He says we don't play games, but he plays games.
We don't play games. None of us play games. You're right. I'm sorry. I led this train astray. And get it back on track. I will not touch his whistle.
Whoa, what?
Heard me.
Whoa, what?
His train whistle.
Starting to look like something.
Trying to look like Ruffles. So you're just mixing these two colors.
It's just dark ivory and dark green
ivory.
brown, and I'm adding more and more dark ivory into it, right? And we'll probably get to the point here very quickly where it's just dark ivory. You know, this is where you have to really choose because I'm running out of space on the top of these ruffles. So I have to choose when do you go, what is your brightest color and when do you go there? My brightest color, if it was intended to be dark ivory, may not be able to get there because I'm going to run out of space, right? I'm starting to get the volumes built up, but I'll start to cover up my other colors here real quick. So at this point in time, I just want to go pretty much like that, to where it's almost like dark ivory by itself, right? The brightest version of this workout. And then focus on that and see if I like it. That may get to be the brightest color next to the final highlight. I don't know. This is where you start, you know, pinpointing your color based on your light source, if you're doing directional light.
Are you going to do anything at the end over all of it? Or are you stopping at dark ivory and that's it? That's your highest highlight.
I mean, I decide these things as I get there.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
There's a world where you could just stop and you're happy. There's a world where maybe you want to do a wash on it and then highlight it back up.
What do you mean, Jason? You don't have this all planned ahead of time before you start painting?
Where is the fun in planning? I don't understand this language.
Sounds like you're just putting paint on the model.
Yeah.
What we do here.
Yeah, you'll find that I'm not a huge fan of the painting plan. Doesn't mean that you can't have one and shouldn't have one. I'm just not personally a fan of it. I like attacking the model with maybe a color that I have in mind, but I'm less concerned with, you know, picking all my colors beforehand as you may be, but don't feel bad about it. Pick the colors as you want. Mm-hmm. I tend to look at it like the model kind of leads me to the coloration that it will become as we go. And that's the whole composition as well as individual colors of things. You know, I never know, like on this collar, I'm like, maybe a parchment-y style thing would look better. And so I'll do that. until we get to a point where I'm like, nah, that's too bright or that's too dark. And then we'll change course as needed to get it to be what I want.
Chuck said, OMG, more change. Because of me?
More
Because
change?
it might be because Christopher added the little producer thing and then he was gone. He left. He's out of here.
Chuck, have you not been here since Chris went on vacation? He's back Wednesday, so don't freak out.
He's never coming back.
He's coming back.
He's never coming back.
He is coming back. We're allowing him back.
I will make sure of it.
As much as you don't want him to.
We can allow him to, but he's not coming back.
Oh, he is.
He won't make it back.
This is not the kind of friendship you want to build in your life,
He will
Chad.
not make it.
Sounds very ominous.
Rattlecan said, any insight into the next new product to be released?
Well, it won't be a surprise if I say yes.
It's true.
We're working on all sorts of stuff. I got some big stuff, some kind of intermediary, kind of smaller stuff. We're doing all sorts of neat things. We don't sleep here.
Chris show is done. No free pub. That's right.
Chris show is done. Going to be so good when he gets back, and he's going to spend the first 3 days clearing the air of the problems that Gabe has created. He's going to blame everything stream related on Gabe for like a week. Yeah. Guaranteed.
Yeah, you know what, Panic Bomb? You get 10 Fisher points. How about that?
Stingy bastard, isn't he?
You get 10. Yeah, but that's still worth, how much is it? 100 to 1? So, or 1 to 100? However that's supposed to be done. So that's technically 1,000 sushi points right there. We have a question. What do you recommend for gap or seam filling? Well, don't we have the product for you?
Yeah, it depends. I used our super glue for a lot of it. Our ProFix is a higher viscosity super glue, but not so gel-like that it's not workable on just putting your parts together. But if you have an accelerant, like a super glue accelerant, or you can just use water, believe it or not, and you put it in the gap. That's what I did here. When I was mounting him, I drilled through his boot. And to fill the place where the drill bit popped up, I just put super glue. Right, to fill the hole. But you can use 2-part epoxy putties, like Abe's epoxy sculpt works really good, dries pretty quick. I've seen people use Sculpey, the air dry clay, because you don't have to mix anything together. You just pull it out and stick it in there. Although sometimes when it air dries, it shrinks when it's in small amounts. So if you've got a gap, sometimes when it dries, it sinks into the gap a little bit. You have to do another layer. That's the same problem when you have things like the 2-part epoxy sculpts too, though. Whenever you don't have enough material, as it cures, it shrinks. But super glue has always been my favorite. Super glue is really easy.
Chuck said, we have it. Thursday night, we went to Old Gods of Appalachia live and then had to get our cat ripped on gabapentin for a vet visit on Friday. I don't know what that is.
Ripped on gabapentin? What's that?
Probably drugs.
Drugs? Yeah, Mr. Hobby Putty. There's the like epoxy putty, right? Smells like lacquer paint that comes in a tube that's like gray. The Squadron putty. They have green and gray that you clean up with enamel thinner, lacquer thinner.
Gabapentin is cat anxiety meds, pain meds.
Why is your cat anxious?
I hope the kitty's okay.
Why? What is your cat doing being anxious? I don't understand.
That's looking pretty good, Jason. I like that workup.
Easy. We're going to wash over it.
What kind of wash?
Krill.
Oh. Soap and water?
Yeah, soap and water. Dish soap.
Go into the car wash.
Oh, God.
Or if you live under the sea, it's the whale wash.
You look under the seats, what?
If you live under the sea, the whale wash.
Oh, because you
Shark
have
tail?
a whale?
Shark tails? Shark tail? No? Anybody? Oof.
Rough crowd, Gabe.
Yeah. Ew. Do you use water to make the super glue lie flat?
What?
Super glue. Do you use water to make it lie flat?
I use water to get it to dry quick.
Not SpongeBob. Wrong. You are incorrect.
But I use accelerator, the zip kicker or whatever it's called.
Sorry, say that again?
Zip kicker?
Zit kicker?
Zip.
Oh, zip. I was like, zit kicker.
Zip kicker.
That would have been a crazy thing to be like, yeah, that's what we use for hobbying is zit kicker.
It's called zit kicker.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that teenagers use before they go on dates. Works great for filling gaps.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the same thing that people put on their faces to get rid of zits is what you use to glue your
No, it's
models
called
together.
Zip.
What is a zip kicker?
It's a super glue accelerant. Specifically. It used to be called zip kicker. I don't know. What is the stuff I have?
That's also a crazy name for something.
Instaset.
Instaset. Instaset zip kicker.
All right. Well, it lasts literally. I've had that for over 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Guaranteed.
That's crazy.
Because you don't use any of it. It comes in a spray bottle. You don't ever spray it. You unscrew it and you pull the top out, which has a little plastic thing for the spray nozzle.
Yeah.
And that has enough liquid in the thing all the time that you just touch it briefly to the model and it works like a champ.
that's great.
You don't ever have to use a whole lot.
The question was, do you always add more highlights after using a wash?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep. It's rare that I would put a wash on anything and then not paint over it. A wash is a good way to do a filter, but filters need cleanup. Just period. There's not really a good way around that. If you just use a wash on the model and don't come back and highlight, then you run the risk of it looking really shoddy. You can clean up the wash. Washes will darken everything down, of course, so you need to make sure that you stay on top of it and bring the brightness that you expected on the area of the model back up, all that kind of stuff.
Zit kicker is a very 90s Acme product.
Yeah. Zit kicker. All right, so now I'm going to go just dark ivory. And we'll do a little bit of
This is the highest highlight with this dark ivory, huh?
Yeah, it'll feel like a white. Since I've decided to put
Yeah.
a wash on it, the wash will blend it all together, knock it back down, so I can go a little bit brighter than just the mix of the two.
It's that time of stream where this chair is hurting my rump.
Well, you also said you sat in a crappy chair all weekend.
I did. So it's
You basically went to a seminar all weekend
yep.
and sat in crappy chairs, so
So
sitting
fun.
in more crappy chair.
I mean, this is an okay chair, but my body's just not used to it, so it hurts. Speaking of washes,
Welcome, everyone.
I discovered magenta wash is absolutely killer for glazing color shadows into a bright red area without losing the vibrancy.
He got me, chat. He got me.
I
He
did.
did the speaking of, and he got me.
Actually, Northrax got you. I'll give them credit.
Dang it.
Yeah, chat got you this time.
All of you. Passages, all of you. See how, for the original questioner, you start getting a blended look on this cloth, right, without ever doing any blending. And the wash will push it further and do more for us and all of that. So even on a model that you're doing at display quality, you can do what most people would say, well, that's not the way that professionals paint their models. Sure you can. Every tool in your toolbox, regardless of when you learned it, right, dry brushing is a great tool. No reason to not use dry brushing very often. If all the models you're painting benefit from what dry brushing has to offer. I won't go out on a limb and say that you can dry brush every model that you want to. But sometimes it just doesn't do justice to the model you're trying to paint. But it does not make it a beginner's paint style.
Telemachus says, I was once best man at a wedding in Paris. At the reception, I raised my glass and said, eggs, cinnamon bread, and maple syrup. It was a French toast.
That's crickets. By the way, crickets. Telemachus, crickets. That's Gabe's new cricket box.
Yep. Christopher somehow managed to fit a bunch of crickets in here.
Yes.
And a drum kit. A French toast. That's great. All right. Getting back on tracks here. That's a lot of ruffles, Jason.
It's a lot.
A lot of ruffles. It is mesmerizing, though. Are you going to do anything special in the shadows of the ruffles, or are you going to keep them that dark green brown?
Oh, dark green brown was the intention. I mean, whatever wash I use will shift the color a little bit.
That's fair.
Regardless of what I do.
Yeah.
So there is that.
A little
as well.
darker. I don't know if you're going to do something fancy, which I feel like.
I mean, I might after the wash. Again, I don't have a plan. You can see what each step brings you, knowing that, if you have confidence in the step you're about to perform, put it on the model. And if it does what you want it to do, you stop. If you like it the way it is, stop. If it inspires you to something else, do that something else. I'm looking at this from an aspect of where does the coloring look different enough from the yellow on the cloth here, and I'm there, right? The color's different enough.
Yep.
Still has a little bit of that yellowishness because even the dark green brown has a yellowishness to it. It's kind of like a dark khaki-ish color, But then, when we put a wash on the top of it, all that'll change. All bets are off, kind of a thing. So we'll do that now.
I noticed you did a lot more of the edge highlighting on the ruffles, like the front of them, on the front, kind of that right side, more so than you did the back and the left side. Was that intentional for lighting?
No, I should probably do it back here too. I'm just kind of tired of it.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm just kind of tired of it.
Okay.
It looks great. It's the same reason why the non-metallic metal on the back is just that.
Yeah,
as opposed to
why
all
not
of
say
this.
that? Yeah, no, it's a lighting thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's
totally
like I just don't care.
It's totally a lighting thing. Oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Great, call me out on it.
I didn't mean to
Thanks,
out
Gabe.
you there. I was like, oh, he's got some secret.
Gabe, we need to go back to the drawing board on the don't ask, don't tell part of the stream is in effect right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bastage.
That's fine.
Geez, thanks.
Chris would never do this, would he?
He would always do that. That's why I'm saying I think I liked you better before you started pretending to be Chris.
Oh no.
We're
both
keeping
curious.
me honest.
We're like, oh, I want to know the secrets. And
you're thinking it's all purposeful.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
absolutely.
This is just me being lazy.
Which to be fair,
I stopped on the way around because you have to change the lighting direction.
Oh.
And so I just stopped to make sure that I didn't keep painting the same way because I'm doing this side of the loop.
Yeah.
And that has to stop right here.
Yep.
And I have to start doing the other side of the loop. So I just stopped right there. And then I never went back.
Yeah, that's fair.
See? Because you have to pick a point where the light is hitting this edge, and then it hits a place where it gets both edges, and then it only gets the one edge going around the other direction.
Yeah.
And so, you just have to make sure. And so I was using that as an excuse to not do it at all, but you called me out on it, and thanks. Great. That's awesome.
Sorry.
Thanks. Great, Gabe. Great, Gabe.
Sorry.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Gabe. Great.
You'll thank me later.
Great. Thanks. Again, thanks, Gabe.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's awesome. I appreciate you.
You are so welcome. Speaking of being welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Nice. Look at that. 2 welcomes. It's 3:28 p.m.
What?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Pacific Standard Time.
You're just going to confuse them now.
Which is kind of true. It's true right now.
It's true right now. It won't be true later.
Not later. Don't mark that in your calendars.
We used to tell people that, and then when we weren't, they were like, wait a minute, I thought you guys were on Pacific time. I was like, well, we were last month.
Yeah.
Or we were. It could be as we were yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Then
I don't understand this Arizona thing.
Then we switched to being the same as what? Mountain Time?
Yeah, Mountain Time.
Which is confusing, too, because there's Mountain Time and there's Mountain Standard Time. Competing time zones. Yes, it is the bottom. The bottom.
Huh?
It's the middle of the hour, so the bottom of the hour.
Bottom of the hour.
It's the bottom of the hour.
No, it's 3:30.
To bottom of the hour.
The bottom of the hour.
To bottom.
No, not to bottom. Don't be Chris. It is not both the bottom and the top of the hour.
It could be.
It cannot be the top of the hour. The top of the hour is on the hour.
Could be the to bottom.
Florida keeps saying they will stick to daylight time, but they won't go through with it. Wait a minute. They will stick to daylight time? What do you mean? You're an MDT and we're an MST, yet somehow you're in the same time zone.
Yeah.
But we're not.
But we kind of are.
It's because all of you guys lie and shift one to the left every 6 months.
And then back to the right.
And then back to the right. And we just decide to stay where we're at. That's it. That's all there is to it.
So I've never experienced having to switch a clock before. And I did this last year because the time change happened when Jordan and I were at Dice Tower.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so we lost an hour of sleep that night. That sucked.
Sprung forward.
Yep. So it was like, it was weird.
It sucks.
Terrible.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. There is absolutely no need for it. Ever. Period. Yep. Change it.
It was the worst. And it was, of course, the one night that we stayed out the latest because we just weren't thinking about it. We're like, oh, yeah, it's fine if we stay out till midnight. And then you lose an hour of sleep. So. Yeah.
Now the question is, do we want the sepia? Right? The petroleum brown wash? I think that would be good. Let's do that. Let's do that. Chat.
Yeah, Theria, we have that on our VOD too of him spraying the eyes. That was on Monday last week. So if you want was it Tuesday?
Tuesday.
After you did the armor?
I did the armor on Monday, and then we did that on
so
Tuesday.
Wrong. So yes, Tuesday. So if you go to Tuesday last week on our VOD, you'll see the whole process of how he painted those eyes.
Petroleum brown.
Sounds like poor planning there, Jabe. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I knew exactly what I was doing until I forgot about
it. I knew exactly what was happening until I didn't.
AZ does not change our clocks because we know it's silly.
Yeah,
it's
we rebelled against the silliness of people changing their clocks for no damn reason.
I will say it is a little jarring, though, to have during the summer it be so bright early in the morning, and then in the winter it's so dark. And it happens very fast.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Well, just Saturday was the longest day of the year, the summer solstice.
Yeah, this is early light coming through my window.
Something like that. Hawk-a-doke!
AZ needs more sun in the summer. I agree.
Wait.
Let's make it warmer for longer in the day.
Whoa. I'm going to need you to settle down, buddy.
Love when the sun doesn't set till 8:45. Yeah, in when I was over at UK Games Expo, the sun would be out till like 9:30 or 10. And so you look at your watch and you go, oh my goodness, it's 10 o'clock? That's crazy. Weird. No rounding. Right, Kyle? It's 3:33 to bottom of the hour. Headed up to Alaska. Sun's going to set to 11:40. Ew. Gross. So, Jason, you just did petroleum brown wash mixed with some water.
Some water.
Any glaze and wash or just
Nope, just water.
just straight water?
Yep.
Some water.
These washes work great. All of our washes work great without the glaze wash medium.
Yep.
Every now and then I'll put the glaze wash medium in, depending on how thick I want it to be.
Right.
This I'm wanting to roll off into the recesses a lot quicker, so I'm okay with it just being a normal wash.
Glaze and wash medium is thicker than the washes. Correct?
Yeah, it's almost a little bit thicker than our paint.
Okay.
Meaning that it allows you to add the glaze and wash and a little bit of water and still have the same viscosity as the paint. That's the whole intention, because we know that you need to add a little bit of water with it most of the time.
Jason's cooking with gas. He knows what he's doing.
Be careful here. I don't want any of this to run down onto anything else we've painted. The hassle with using a wash midway when you finish some parts that don't want to be washed. I'm just going to do inside all the folds first, and as I get that, then I'll come back when I don't have as much material on the brush, come back and do the edges so that I get them as well, but now I won't have as much just kind of running out onto other surfaces. And this is why I went a little bit brighter with the coloring than I would have normally, because this will darken it all back up.
Mm-hmm.
And this will also smooth out any of the roughness, because I was just painting stripes on the cloth. This will smooth a little bit of that out.
That's great. Looks awesome.
Yeah, I wanted it to feel, I mean, he's a fly, so I have to be honest. I don't think a fly would have super clean anything. I'm just throwing it out there.
No.
You know? So I'm painting everything right now as if most of it is super clean. The armor, maybe not quite, but I'm going to go back in and add more environmental colors even on the armor. You know, maybe a little bit of rust, dirt, grime, things like that. But at first, you want to paint things as if they're cleaner. Here on the cloth is where you'll start seeing me add a little bit of that weathered, dirty nature right out of the gates. And I like this because you can see, somebody earlier was asking, what would I do to create a sepia wash? Hopefully you're seeing it, right? This is a really great sepia tone here. Because this looks like that old photo coloration.
The question was, and this is what filtering means in this case, correct? Smoothing the brush strokes from layering?
Yeah, filtering by its very nature is putting one color over the top of another color or colors to shift their hue, right? We do it in photography, right? Color filters for photography, so you can make it look like it's, you know, brighter than it really is, or a sepia filter to make it look like a Wild West photo, you know, that kind of stuff. That's what you think of when you say filter. It's putting a thinned, less opaque color over the top of another body of colors so that you just shift their hue. So in this realm where we were moving towards this ivory color, now we've shifted it towards the sepia, but we've kept all the value. See how all my brightness and my volumes are still there? All my highlights and stuff are still there? That's what it means to filter, okay? It also has the ability to smooth your brushstrokes out. So it's kind of a secondary application, is that it helps to blend. But the first thing it does is change the color, which is the filter part. The secondary kind of thing that is a benefit from it is it will also smooth your blends out. So you need to be thinking in both directions. There's not a way you can put, well, you could. I could take a dark ivory, right, which is the color I was highlighting with, and mix it with the dark green-brown, and get kind of a mid-tone, and then mix our glaze wash medium into it and create a wash out of that color and put it over the top and not really change the color of the thing I'm painting and still get the blending effects. So you can use a color you've already painted on the model to create a wash out of, to put back over the model to blend your brush strokes and not shift the color. So think in those terms. In this case, I wanted to also shift the color, so I picked the sepia, right? I think that looks bitchin'.
Next model on the list will have quite a bit of skin.
Somebody asking us to paint skin.
Yeah.
We get a lot of painting flesh lately, which is good.
Yep.
You're either going to love it. I guess I told myself that I would ask you guys and gals if you wanted to see me paint the next model we're going to paint, and we can bring it on stream tomorrow or something and show you. I tend to ask before I paint the type of model that we have slated, just to make sure, because number one, we're a family show more so than not. It is a female surfer who has a surfboard. It's by some friends of ours over at Kaha Miniatures. It is a fantastic sculpt. It is not in any way pornographic or anything like that. She's wearing a bathing suit, but I mean, it's a girl in a bikini with a surfboard. So it is skin, right? It's this shapely girl with a surfboard. The reason I like the model is because, number one, it's a lot of skin to paint. It is female skin, which has a lot of neat nuances to it. The underside of the breast and the butt cheeks and all that are places where on men we don't get that coloration. So it's a neat way to show the flush areas of flesh and how to work that. And then a surfboard, which is pretty big, which gives us a lot of freehand space. Yep. So Chris and I thought it'd be a great model for skin and for freehanding graphics, so we can do something really cool on the surfboard. But I always like to run stuff by chat with that kind of thing. So I get it if it's not to everybody's liking. But then we have a fly holding poop, so I also don't care sometimes. Because I will paint it anyway in my own time if chat doesn't want to see it.
Tapple Jackson said, as someone that is painting a lot of orcs, I would love to see you paint more skin so I learn how to better choose highlight locations and such.
Yeah. Well, and the nice thing with something like that is that it's almost like, without being naked, it's almost like a teaching model, right? Because it's just a body.
Yep.
Now it's kind of a bust. It's not the full body. It cuts her off at just below her thigh level.
You're a little high.
Right. It cuts her off just below her thigh level. So it's kind of just enough to where you can get the surfboard in frame, but it's more of a bust.
Derpstick asked, because of how bright peach flesh is, what would you put underneath it if peach flesh was the highlight? What would the work up to peach flesh be?
The work up to peach flesh.
If peach flesh was your final highlight, what would you put underneath it? Or would you put something over peach flesh too?
Well, you can. I mean, peach flesh is very bright though, right? So peach flesh is a really, really good pale yellowish tone. It doesn't have quite as much pink, even though the label doesn't register the color perfectly. It is a little bit more of a yellowish tone. So I think that any of our colors work up great to it. Tan flesh gives you that kind of more pink base for it, and it winds up being a really nice highlight for that. But also advanced flesh tone, right? It works great. The thing when I develop flesh tones is they all work together. There's not one that doesn't work with another one. It's just how do you want to do it? Because remember, my way of teaching you to paint flesh is that you always take the highlight and mix it with the base 50-50 to do a layer, and then put the highlight on top of it. So every pair of colors you paint in skin tones is 3 colors. It's the darker one, the mix of the two, and the brighter one. Always is the way you should be painting skin, because skin is something that needs to have a more nuanced blend to it than, metal or fabric and stuff in most cases.
We asked, the black armor methodology has a blue and red glaze step. Does that need revising per your more recent processes?
No.
Or the VOD's your new source for methodologies?
Mm-mm.
That's just another way you can paint.
No, the nice thing with all of those, Blu-ray, is that you can do them. I might show you something else on how to paint black, which is fine. There's as many ways to paint as there are painters. Each one of those is valid. Which one do you like? You can cut some of the steps in and out as you want to, right? That's the nice thing with them, is that you can be like, I wonder what would happen if I didn't do this part. And check it out. See what it does. See how you like it. Make sure, just for posterity's sake, and so Gabe doesn't yell at me because I didn't paint the part, that I get the underside here. So Jason, I was wondering, in your professional stance, why is it that you left the underside of those ruffles unpainted?
When I turn it upside down.
Bastards. That makes a good color.
Looks great.
I'm going to leave him kind of on his belly for a second. I know. Very rude.
How dare you?
Very rude.
How dare?
Very rude. You very rude. That would look great with some hot pink on it. That's not how we talk around here. That's just not how that works. Right now, you want to pop in close on this, and we can even closer,
Even closer.
even
Boom.
closer, and you can see right where my brush strokes were not blended at all, but my coloration created the volumes on there, and the brush strokes give it the feeling of the texture of cloth, and then the wash over the top of it kind of puts it all into the mix. Right, there's still some areas where you can see I've got some pretty heavy-handedness on the way the colors come together. And we can smooth that out with a final going back after it with the highlight, or we can leave it as rougher cloth. It's up to you. You were, Wad, that doesn't even make sense.
Unpainted ruffles? And then they were plain.
That does, we don't eat the paint, Wad. Don't eat the paint. Quit it. Just stop.
No eating of paint.
Just stop. Just stop. Now we make a decision. We did the highlights with the dark ivory. Do we want to keep with the dark ivory, or has this new color that we've created given us a way to do a different highlight color, right? Could I do something like olive flesh? Does now a color like pale yellow or bright ivory or something else work better? You know, warm flesh feels like it might be a better highlight for that now, right? Or does that give us too much of the same yellowy that the khaki did down here?
It's a little bit like the...
Right. So now is where you have to start making those decisions, because to just go back with the same color after you've done a wash on it, although it don't look bad. Don't look bad. We'll stick with it. Remember, you can mix the wash into your color too. A lot of people don't understand that the wash, especially the washes from us, are just paints. And so while their viscosity is different, their opacity is different, there's no reason why you can't mix them in with the colors, because a wash, when put over the top of, say, you know, this over the top of the dark ivory, gives us another color. So take the wash and mix it into the dark ivory to get that same color or brighter version of it. If going back to your original highlight is too bright, causes too much contrast, changes the color back again, you know, whatever it is.
How do you avoid brush strokes if you don't want the texture? Example, when painting a very smooth surface, not a cloth.
I mean, it's really just time, patience, right? That brush stroke has to be smooth. You have to blend your brush strokes better. That again gets us back into what started this whole conversation with, okay, well, how do you choose to blend? You know, which blending is going to be most comfortable for you? Do you like to blend with wet blending? That gets rid of brush strokes if you're careful. Layering can be, if I just take more time with it, right? The way we layered these was pretty abrupt. I look at the material and I'm like, okay, I don't mind if this is a little bit more of a textured surface because it's cloth. Tells a better story. Airbrushing obviously gives you the smoothest surface. You can do that.
Right, yeah, airbrushing would be the easier, maybe not. I mean, it's different. It might give you the smoother look, but like Jason was saying earlier, that setting up your airbrush can take a lot of time to make sure all that works.
100%. That's all a matter of comfort with the airbrush.
Yeah.
How confident are you with your airbrushing capabilities? Like I said, you know, also smoothing your brush strokes out after the fact is a great way to do it.
Some of the craziest blending I've ever seen is from Flame On. It is non-metallic metal, but it's still pretty incredible how he gets all of his blends to look so seamless.
Yeah, and he's just glazing between layers.
Yep. All by hand. I think that color was a great pick. He's doing that again.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for getting started raising my color IQ, especially when it comes to choosing undercoat colors?
You know, I think at some point you just have to kind of have a mentality of, okay, what's the works 80% of the time? mentality, right? So if I'm going to do a thing, right, I'm going to start undercoating. What's the rule of thumb that gets me 80% of my models done in a way that works? It's that you use a cooler color for your shadow, right? That's the 80% rule. If you go in with a darker purple, like a bluer purple, or a dark blue for your undercoat, for just about any color, that works, right? Because shadows tend to register as being cooler tones, right? So that works for just about everything. Now, then the question comes up with, okay, what if I'm painting something that's blue? Then it's not really an undertone, right? Because blue, you would expect blue to be the undertone, right? So how do I make sure that I get, something that looks good enough if I'm painting blue or purple? And in those cases, you would make sure you use purple for blue and blue for purple. So you just flip-flop them. If you're painting something that's purple skin dude, do a shadow of blue. If you're painting something that's blue skin dude, underpaint purple, right? So just interchange those. That will get you to be right literally almost 99.9% of the time. Then you have it, as you start getting more comfortable even doing that, you start getting to the point where you're like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. Now what do I do when I paint black, right? Can you do blue? Yes, but most times you like to use blue in the black to make it register, especially like armor. So that's why, like in the methodology, my black armor has a little bit of red in the shadows, or like dark plum, something like that makes it feel like this guy, right? This guy is done with blues on the upper portion highlights of the black armor, and then the dark plum that you can see in the shadows, which dark plum is kind of a purple. So it sticks to my thing, except it's a little warmer than a purple because I use blue on the black, which makes the whole model feel a little cooler, right? And temperature. When we say cool and warmth like that, it means the temperature of the color, right? So by doing that, you can use reds or reddish colors in the shadows too and get away with it. Just up to you. But I would say that cooling off your shadows is the best way to do it. It's why you'll see that people will joke that I'm the king of dark purple. I typically base everything with dark purple. Here on the armor, I use dark plum, just like I did on that black. So you'll see a little bit of that kind of purpley plum, which works really great with where we're at right now with the royal purple, because it makes it look like the royal purple's reflecting back into the armor, even though they're not the same color. See that? Is that showing up?
Mm-hmm.
That plum that's in the armor looks like the reflection of the purple, even though they're not. So those kinds of nuances give you really cool effects from the environment. I just like it because it's a cool temperature color that you can put on things. Now, as far as your other color knowledge, right, it really is a matter of learning some of the standard artist color wheel. You'll hear me say a lot of times on the channel, be careful with that, because it is meant to teach people how to paint on 2D surfaces. It is not really taking into account what you're painting. So there are no really hard, fast rules that survive all the time when painting models, because a lot of what we're painting are very desaturated colors. We're not painting with tons of vibrancy, unless you're painting comic book characters a lot, at which point in time all bets are off, right? But for us, when you're painting desaturated military style colors, Space Marines, dirty cloth, things like that, then all colors go with all other colors as you desaturate them. That's just the truth. And so you don't have to be beholden as often to, that whole what works and doesn't work with green. At some point in time, it's whatever you want to works with green. It just depends on how bright the green is.
Dan Osborne says, "Oh hey, love your work on this craze."
Oh hey, hey girl, hey. Big Dan. How you doing, Dan? Now it's
move up just a little bit.
Like there?
Yeah.
Back to thinning this color down quite a bit. And you're going to see me pull it even into the shadows on the side where the light is coming from. So it'll create more contrast away from the light and less of that as I bend into the light. So you'll notice that like on this one here, just a little bit of brightness, and I'm going to bring all of that all the way over down into the darkness of that roll. And it's the first time we've done that because it'll smooth out that blend, but also bring our light source in a particular direction. And then I just have to be watching where that light source will change around the circumference of the model, which is over the left shoulder here. So I'll then start pushing it into the opposite shadow as we go that way. So this is more of what I would call a glaze, right? You'll see me test it over here where I can see through it a little bit more. Right? And again, can you pop in closer?
Yeah.
You can show the actual brushstroke, right? So on these, right, this side faces my light, so I'll just kind of pull some quick brush strokes, and then I'll push it all the way down into the shadow there. Right? But you'll see that the paint is so thin that it doesn't overtake the shadow 100%. Then do the same thing over here, and down into that shadow, and right here, down in the shadow, here, down in the shadow, so on and so forth. That just makes sure that this side where the light is hitting from brightens up a bit. Almost look like bamboo. Painting it. You can back out.
Question, is that brush full of water?
Yeah, just water. I only thin with the water on my brush. I don't ever thin the droplet on the palette. I don't really mess with it. The palette is always the paint as it comes out of the bottle, except in the little tail that I'll pull off to the side as I'm mixing, right? That makes it to where you can always use the palette for whatever you want, because the drop is not going to be, I got a little bit too much there, so I'm going to try to get it out, milk it out with a brush. The palette's always got the paint that's usable however you want to use it.
PNG, not JPEG. Awesome. We're so excited for you to be able to try out the new paints for Deathwing.
What do you get?
You are going to enjoy them. They just put together a shopping list for Monument stuff and looking forward to try out the new paints for Deathwing.
Awesome.
So exciting. Love it, love it.
This whole thing that I'm painting here would be a great way to do Deathwing armor.
Dan said, great. Working on Nova prep. Can't wait. Just 2 months.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Got about 220 models to prep for my classes.
Don't tell. Is it really only 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, end of August. Yeah, 2 months away.
How dare they? How dare they?
I know we got Gen Con in just a month.
No, don't say that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's at the end of July?
It's the first weekend of August.
I quit. Good thing I don't have to go.
Yeah, true. Didn't we just have Nova? Yes. And no. Also.
I get so excited for them when it's time to go, but if you tell me now, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Nope, not interested.
Too close. Too close.
It's too close.
Too much to do.
I envy everybody that gets to attend as an attendee.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the days where it took zero planning to go to a show. You just pack your bags, get on an airplane, and go to a show. So, there you go.
That looks great. Look at those ruffles.
Picked up a bottle of magnesium after watching the stream a few weeks ago with the Undead Horse Abomination. You painted. Nice. Magnesium is a great one, for all the reasons we talked about while painting the armor on that guy. But also, I mean, we painted stuff since then, right? What did I just paint? This. I think we did magnesium underneath this, didn't we? Yeah. We did the magnesium and then the magnesium with the rich gold, right? To do the armor on this guy is just super fast, ultramarine way to paint get your army on the table super fast. And magnesium is just such a great base for silver and gold. No matter what you're painting, it just works like a champ.
Bushman, heading out for food. Thanks for the stream. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Take it easy.
Finn, take it easy as well. Have a great night.
You're now in the Undercoat All Metals with Magnesium Club. Yep. It's
Yeah,
just too
super
good.
It's so good.
It gives you such a confident starting point. If you're going to paint metal, paint magnesium first. Doesn't matter what metals. Doesn't matter. Do it, right? It literally doesn't matter. It's such a great base tone. Love it. Love it.
Jason, it's 3:58.
I quit.
You quit.
It's a good quitting time.
You quit.
Well, I mean, not quit, but I quit.
You heard it here, folks. Jason's quitting. And firing Christopher at the same time.
It's easy.
It's not just me. It's
This
the
is the way it
Gabe
happens.
stream.
It's a Gabe stream.
The Gabe stream.
Done. He has to produce and paint.
Yep.
Good luck, kid. I hope you've learned a lot.
Sounds great. I'm in.
Sounds great. I'm in. You got a lot of models to paint, so content's there.
It's true. Put me in chat. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Put me in, coach.
I'll answer all of your questions, whether they're right or wrong. I will answer them.
Oh, God. So all the years of Monument being invested in your painting future.
Yep.
And now this is what you get.
Yep. We're going to put it up on a dartboard and I'm going to throw darts at it and we'll see what happens.
Oh, how funny would that be if we just put some of my most common painting answers on a dartboard and then we just had a deal where people would ask questions and we'd throw the dart and then we'd just kind of, just roll with it.
Yeah. Ghost Hunter, no, this is one of those situations where it's how alike Christopher and I are, that this is pre-Chris, Jabe would say this, and pre-Jabe, Christopher would say this. And that's what makes it so terrible. So terrible. I should probably get magnesium. I got more of the tube paints. Nice. I like it.
Also a good answer.
Put magenta wash on the dartboard. Fair. So how would I build up my non-metallic metals? Magenta wash.
And we just don't go any further. It's like, today, this is all you get.
I think what you should do is you set it up so Chris can throw the dart, and you say, all right, Chris, what's the answer? And you hear a thud. Don't need the paint. That's it. Lick your brush. Payne's gray.
Well, Payne's gray is always the answer.
Yeah.
Payne's gray is always the answer. Sorry, I got distracted. I noticed some areas that weren't quite as bright as I wanted them. And now that I've got bright colors, it's a great showing, right? Because this was black up until today. And so everything next to it looked really bright.
Yep.
Because up against black, everything's brighter than black. But when I painted it and now it's bright, a lot of the armor is now not bright enough. So I knew that. I knew that using the bright neutral gray was not going to get us all the way, but I didn't know if I wanted to go to pure white blue or where I wanted to take it until, and this is a great example of that, until we got the purple painted around the armor, the yellow stripes painted around the armor, and the cuff painted around the armor. Now when you look at the armor, I can adjust. And what I noticed is that up here in this pinch of the shoulder, this was too dark. It looked fine until this had color on it. Right? Because this was all black, right? This area where the hand and the poop are black, when we get paint on those, we'll have to readjust the armor around that too. So that's why I say don't invest in any one part of the model until you're ready to finish the whole model, because every instance that you look at, especially as the model gets bigger, everything you look at is affected so dramatically by everything around it that if you look at everything when it's in black primer around an area, you'll think, oh my God, that looks perfect. And then you'll paint everything else and it'll fall into unrecognizability because it's just too dark, right? Because against all the contrast that you put on the model elsewhere. So just don't ever get too heavily invested in being done with a part until everything's ready to be done. Otherwise, you'll be disappointed. You'll spend a lot of unnecessary time on things that don't make sense.
I can already hear Chris complaining about having to add a dartboard cam.
Yes.
And microphone. You need to hear the thud.
We got to have him arrange all this first, right?
Yeah.
When he gets back, that's his first job, is being unhappy about having to light his face so it looks like everything else, and stop doing that. I'm going to lock it down and not give him the passcode. Right?
That's funny.
What exactly is Payne's gray? Payne's gray is just a color. It's just a hue that was created centuries ago.
Get all the answers you have given on stream put in shorts. You have an AI stream that just looks at chat questions and plays the clips.
Ooh.
That's kind of crazy.
I could just go sit on a beach?
Yeah, 24/7. Everyone can come in and ask a question.
Everybody says, hey, Jason, what are you doing with your business due to AI? And I go, nothing. They're like, why aren't you afraid? I was like, the time that AI can paint a model as well as I can, we are doomed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't have a problem at all with AI.
Yeah.
Everybody else can worry about AI. I'll still be sitting here painting miniatures with real paint.
Yep.
If anything, AI will be able to give you some cool color combos. If you go to ChatGPT or Chris GPT, it's, hey, Chris, what would you use for my Ultramarines? And it'll spit out all the Pro Acryl colors. I'm in, damn it.
Oh, it's 4:04.
4:04.
4:04 o'clock.
That's an error code.
4:04?
We're getting closer. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Jabe is going to be putting the links up in chat. There they are. If you're new around here, please hit that follow button. If you're on the Twitch, if you're watching us over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. We'd love to see you back here. We stream Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here from Monument HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. We'd love to see you back. We have a great community of painters, all sorts of great inspiration. You can check it out over on our Discord, where we've got 5,745 people in the Magnesium Club who liked Gabe more when he wasn't trying to be Chris. That's according to Ghost Hunter.
That's fair. Gabe is better than Chris. So
I
I understand.
feel like that's pretty good, Ghost Hunter. I feel like you're right.
Yeah.
I feel like you're right. Gabe was better when he wasn't trying to be Chris.
Because Gabe is better.
But today, Chris did not put his mouth on Gabe did not put his mouth on Chris's whistle.
It's true.
He said that out loud on stream.
I did. I didn't say. I said I wouldn't touch his whistle.
Oh,
not that I wouldn't
even
put my
worse.
mouth on his whistle.
Even worse. He wouldn't touch the whistle with his lips. So, does he get in sushi points for that?
Yes.
Sure.
15 Fisher points.
I mean, Chris's mom gave Gabe 1,000,000 sushi points.
It's true.
So this is the relationship they have. So
It's true.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure to check out the community locations. Go to monumenthobbies.com, where you'll find all your Pro Acryl and brush and hobby needs. We make some of the best stuff in the galaxy. Please give us a shot the next time you're looking to up your hobby game. And tune in here every day for more shenanigans painting as we paint Lord Bzz and his little poop pile. We'll get going on his skin tomorrow, which will include painting his hand and his little turd
hand.
Turd cake.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's got going on there, but it's a cow patty.
You should make it the same coloring as the Squatty Potty unicorn poop.
Like unicorn, like rainbow.
Yeah.
Make it a rainbow poop.
Rainbow ice cream poops.
I've already painted these ruffles. I'm not interested.
Chris says
and all
to not
of the
touch the
indentions
whistle.
on the stripes on the clothes. It's too much. It's too much. Sushi. He's not supposed to be here, Gabe. You promised he wouldn't watch the show today. You said we could have free speech today, Gabe.
It's true. I did.
He's had his parts all over your whistle, Chris.
Wow. It's after 4, folks.
It's after 4. I can't be held responsible. It's a family show until it's not. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, everybody. Stick around. Gabe's going to find us somebody to raid. We'd love to see you back here tomorrow. Remember, more Lord Bzz on tomorrow and Wednesday, and then we'll see once Chris gets back if he whips us into shape and makes us paint Surfer Girl. So we'll see what goes on. Cool. So it'll be an interesting week. Lots of fun to be had. Love to see you back here. Stick around. Show some love in the chat we wind up in after the raid, and have a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.